Hey y'all, welcome back to Room 66, where every week we will be diving deep into the paranormal planes and exploring what truly goes on with the unexplainable. Today's episode is a compilation of true stories about people who have astral projected, aka astral traveled, and the encounters people have with the things that lurk on the astral planes. So sit back, relax, and enjoy your stay in Room 66. Well, this experience started out with me waking up in a dream. But the more I think about it, the more it seems to be closer to astral projection, or something like that. I woke up in my friend Amber's bed at her house. The room was very dark. Nighttime is what it seemed like. I got out of bed and exited her room. The whole house was dark and very quiet. Her room is at the end of an L-shaped hall. Her room being on the left, her mom's room is on the right, at an intersecting point on the L. Their bathroom is at the top of it, and their spare bedroom, now and again her older sister's room, is to the opposite side of Amber's room. All of the doors were closed. I walked to her mom's door and stopped. I could feel a presence behind the door, but didn't want to disturb it. I walked to the end of this hall and turned right. This hall is T-shaped. The kitchen on the left and the living room on the right. I walk into the kitchen, not in view of the living room from where I'm standing, and notice a plate of split food on the ground. I bend down to inspect the plate. As I was doing this, I immediately start to hear this very, very eerie whistling from the living room, and I'm filled with overwhelming dread. I bolt back to Amber's room and shut the door behind me. I can hear the whistling getting louder and louder coming down the hall. I back up to the wall that's furthest from the door. I'm right next to the bed and the nightstand. The whistling is ear-splittingly loud, seeming to echo all around me. The thing whistling is now standing right on the other side of the door. I go to grab a small knife on the nightstand that looks like one I have. As soon as I touch it, the whistling stops, dead silent. Then, the whole place begins to shake, and I am, what feels like being thrown, back into my body. I wake up with a jolt and lie there, awake, completely aware, scared, and eyes wide open. Just as I was starting to calm down, everything on the top shelf in my closet on the left side falls out. Immediate dread swells in me, and I grab my dagger to the right of my bed, turning on my lamp too. Gathering all my courage, I go to inspect my closet, open the doors with my dagger drawn, and nothing was there. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. What I also thought was strange is that when I told Amber about it, she told me that right where I said the split plate of food was in my dream, she said she had a dream that in the exact same spot was a hole, and that in it was a cellar-like place where she saw her sister shooting up. She's bipolar and a recovering meth addict. When I was 12, I started having bad experiences with the Hat Man. He attached himself to my childhood home, and I subsequently suffered sleep paralysis every night for about 7 years. I fought it off every time, not wanting to give in because honestly I was terrified. And information I could find online at the time, we're talking like 20 years ago, wasn't anything helpful or insightful. When I moved out, the SP stopped. Fast forward to now, a couple months ago, I was reading about AP. I thought it was pretty interesting, and I never put two and two together, that SP is genuinely the gateway to AP. I also didn't know of the dangers of negative entities that could potentially be encountered. So I thought I'd give AP a go. And the first time I tried, I was able to reach the astral plane with relative ease. I'm told this means I have a natural gift and ability for an AP. When I travel, I climb out of my body and I'm able to look at myself laying on my bed. When I look at my astral hands, they're white, blue, and semi-transparent. Everything around me is black and white with a light blue tint and sort of smoky, and not quite solid. All around me, I see entities. The first time I saw 3 spirits. One was a kind female figure. The second was an angry and screaming woman. The third looked like a dying body, and it seemed like it was in pain. I also saw a shadow man who stood and watched me. I was able to float around my house, but as I reached my front door, I panicked and got back into my body. Since then, I began seeing a shadow man all around my house, and started to suffer sleep paralysis again. I think I brought him back with me by accident. Now when I give in to the SP, I find myself instantly in the astral world. The following 4 times I AP'd, I found myself face to face with shadow people, sometimes in the astral version of my house, and other times in a vast, empty blackness as far as the eye can see. They tried to hurt me, attack me, terrorize me until I fought my way back to my body. The 6th time I'd AP'd, I ran into an entirely different entity. A tall, shadowy, half-goat, half-man. At first, I felt threatened, but on reflection, and once awake, I didn't feel as though he was that threatening. The jury is still out in exactly what the creature is. It has been suggested that he is Pan, or Baphomet, or Faunus. The next time I found myself in the astral realm, I asked the goat man's name, and he told me that it was Morcor. I later discovered that it is a species of goat. I then found myself being quite literally dragged out of my physical body by a shadow person. I panicked. I called for Morcor, hoping perhaps he could help me, and he did. It was like he made the shadows disappear completely and brought me back into a dream where I was safe. That was my last experience, but I'm hoping to learn more about the goat man the next time I find myself back in the astral world. I can only hope whoever he is a positive entity, and not in fact just parading around as one to gain my trust. But so far, my astral exploration has been one hell of a roller coaster. I begin to feel my soul separating from my body. I've gotten to this point before, but I always chicken out and don't ever push over the edge. But this time I'm really going to do it. The world around me is vibrating. My entire body is aching as I'm trying to yank my soul out of it until finally, I'm standing over my sleeping body. I look around the room and decide to leave. I walk to the door and walk through it. I see my boyfriend sitting on the couch watching TV. Out of the corner of my eye, I see my cat running around in the hallway. So I float over to her and notice that there's another cat she's playing with. A cat I've never seen before. Both of them look at me, start walking towards me, and meow loudly. This goes on for a few minutes until my boyfriend gets up and says, "What are you looking at? Nothing again? Silly cat." I chuckle. I can't wait to tell him about that later. I walk into the bathroom and stare at the long, full body length mirror. I am myself. I just have more of a glow, and my eyes are so icy blue, they might as well be white. Something whispers in my ear, "Walk through the mirror, it'll be fun." I trust the voice. I walk through the mirror, and I'm greeting with a being that isn't human. It looks at me, smiles, and runs through the mirror I just came through. I turn around, scream, and something grabs my arm as I'm trying to run back to my body. I manage to break through and get back through the mirror and back to my bedroom. When I make it back to my sleeping body, my boyfriend is asleep next to me. My cat is curled up at my feet, and the creature is standing over my bed. It laughs as it jumps in, and I run after it. Now, I am awake, alone, and stuck in my body with something else. My life is in a complete state of utter disarray. I feel that I have made an irreversible mistake, with consequences that I can't even begin to imagine. I constantly question my judgment and what possesses me to do what I have done. This is how it all began. Like many of you, I listen to creepy stories on YouTube, especially late at night, because for some reason it gives me a thrill. Now, despite this passing interest, I have always remained somewhat skeptical and viewed these mediums as more of a form of entertainment as opposed to actual belief. My most recent fascination was with astral projection, an out-of-body experience that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. In short, it is essentially an exercise where one is able to separate their soul from their physical body and explore the spiritual astral plane. According to many sites and forums that I've frequented, this appeared to be a rewarding and even pleasant spiritual experience. As I read more on this subject, I become more and more interested, brushing off the occasional warnings along the lines of, be careful, because for all good spirits out there, there are still bad ones lurking in the astral plane. Last Tuesday, on a not-so-special night, I got a wild hair. I had found a fairly detailed step-by-step guide on a forum explaining how to astral project, and I, being the skeptic that I was, decided to give it a try. The steps were quite simple. 1. I was getting ready for bed, fairly tired, and lied down on my bed in the pitch darkness. My roommate had gone to bed down the hallway hours ago, so the apartment was silent. Lying horizontally, I had to keep my right arm at a perpendicular angle, where my fist was facing towards the ceiling, and then attempt to go to sleep. The reason behind my arm placement was that I began to drift into my sleep. My arm would begin to fall, and I would consciously realize this, bringing my fist back to its original position. 2. Now, while doing this for some time, the next step was to imagine, in my mind's eye, some sort of object. In my case, I used a backpack, being right in front of my face, then slowly imagine it growing further and further away until it was almost impossible to see, and then start over again. 3. Next, while maintaining these 2 steps, I was supposed to start seeing multicolored lights and feel some sort of vibration. This is where I thought my experience would end. However, as I dearly imagined the little backpack disappearing and reappearing from view, I was surprised to see from the corner of my eye, lights began to dance into my black plane of view. They appeared like neon streamers, pink, blue, violet, and yellow, creeping into my mind's eye, leaving behind their respective streaks of color. Simultaneously, I begin to feel the faintest sensation of vibrating in my fingertips and toes. It feels like whenever your hand or your foot falls asleep, like tiny needle pricks. Now at this point, I was a mixture of fear and excitement, and wonder, and lost in the image of the backpack flying in and out of view, intertwined with splashes of neon color. The vibration began to seize the entirety of my body. The feeling was almost euphoric, growing ever so rapidly, my body seemingly shaking uncontrollably. 4. This was the final step. After achieving the lights and vibrations all over my body, I was to will myself out of my body. This meant trying to imagine myself floating towards the ceiling, to complete the separation of my soul. As I excitedly imagined as such, being overflown by waves of euphoria, I began to literally feel the tear. My soul was being lifted and the separation was underway. This is when things went wrong, and fast. The feelings of euphoria were drowned out instantly, instead by the feelings of unbelievable fear and dread. I quickly tried to wake myself up, but couldn't, and inside my mind's eye, I was greeted by what I can only describe as a floating head. The image was, to say the least, grotesque. If this head had been a gender, I would say it was male. Its skin was a gross yellow color, covered in wrinkles like the one on the overstretched leather. Its eyes were small and barely distinguishable, glowing scarlet. Its nose was 2 small slits, and its mouth was first closed, also slit. Then it widened, exposing 2 rows of disfigured teeth. Wake up, it's not real, I told myself through the pangs and terror emanating through my body. But the feeling of being torn from my body didn't subside for what seemed like the longest 30 seconds of my life. An eternity, until I finally snapped out of it. I was staring at the black ceiling, seeing the outlines of my ceiling fan whizzing around. Now obviously I was afraid, terribly, but thought nothing of the incident and attempted to move on. But the next night came. As I fell asleep, I had a dream. In this dream, I'm standing on the platform of a ruined train station, made of bricks and cobblestones. There are no walls nor ceilings, just the rundown platform, giving way to my outdoor surroundings. It is nighttime, but the moon is shining a white glow on the scene, revealing a forest stretching as far as the eye can see of dead, ghost-white, scraggly trees, branches convoluted in every type of direction. I'm standing on the edge of this ruined platform, and a railroad track runs in both directions, going to the left and to the right of my vantage point, creating a neat cut through the forest of dead trees. As I look to my left, about 50 yards down the tracks, is a figure. It's shaped like a man, but it's so dark I can't make out any distinguishable features. It, in lack of better terms, just stands there staring at me. It doesn't move, it doesn't shift, it doesn't holler or speak. It just stands there, staring at me in ominous silence of my dream. I have been having this dream every night for a week now, and while at first it was just simply unnerving, on Saturday the dream took a whole new meaning. I began to see this black figure while I was awake now as well. I woke up Saturday morning and got my things ready to go to the gym. When I got in my car and drove around my apartment building to where my view was unobstructed for a good way, there it was, the black figure, just as indistinguishable as before, and the approximate same distance it keeps in my dreams, about 50 yards. I was so taken aback that I slammed on my brakes, rubbed my eyes, and glanced up again. It was still there. It hadn't moved. I inched my car forward a few feet, and the figure began to move with the scenery. It was keeping the exact same distance no matter where I moved. I drove down a long stretch of service road to my gym, and there it just stood, gliding down the street in front of me, passing through other vehicles and obstructions. I parked my car at the gym, and it walked with me, keeping the equidistant 50 yards, eventually passing through the exterior walls of the gym and out of my sight. It wouldn't leave me alone. I would see it standing on the other side of the gym, directly next to another patron who had no reaction to it whatsoever, watching me, always watching me. It's been this way ever since. If I'm in the confines of a small room, such as my living room where I am now, where my field vision is less than 50 yards, I can't see it. But if I were to step outside of my patio right now and glance across my complex parking lot, there it would stand, motionless. And every night the dream has come to me, always unchanging. And then last night, my roommate and I were in the living room when he stepped outside to have a cigarette. I glanced up as he opened the patio door, and I caught the slightest glimpse of the black figure standing in the parking lot. When my roommate came back in, I again caught it a passing glance. Closing my eyes in unnerved fear, I opened them to the shock of seeing the black figure standing in my doorway, less than 12 feet away. And where its head should be was the grotesque face I saw at the end of my unfortunate astral projection experience. It stared at me for a few seconds, its mouth twisting in a nauseating smile, and then it zipped backwards back to its 50-yard distance. I can't live a normal life anymore. This is the thing. No matter where I go or what time of the day, it consistently follows me. It's began to strain my relationships with friends and family as they wonder why I stare over their shoulders wide-eyed. I've come to seek advice from those who have experienced or may have some sort of knowledge on astral projection. What do I do? What can I do? I can't live the rest of my life in an unnerved state of fear, being stared down by this, whatever you want to call it. What sort of malice have I opened myself up to? I honestly don't know what else I can do, because I figure if I tell anyone about it in my life, they'll think I'm crazy or trying to be funny. Please, anybody help me. Update. I've had the exact same dream, no change, every night since my original. Sorry to take so long to get back to all of you guys. As some of you may have been surprised from my post, I'm in the process of moving to a new city. It has engulfed a lot of my time that I spend mostly packing, and the like in confined spaces, free form of the contest presence of it, being blocked by gracious four walls. Yet, when I leave, which is rare due to prepping the move, to go to the gym or to a friend's place, it's always there, floating down the road with me. I'm sorry to say that most of the advice given to me, I have failed to capitalize on, because I'm busy trying to move and can't spend the time to find mediums and priests. But really, I'm too terrified to explore this front on. However, today, I made a trip to the new city I'm moving to meet the management company of my new condo to sign the lease. And as I drove to the old country highway at night, usually the only car on the road, I couldn't take it anymore. I'm driving down a pitch black 2-lane highway, high beams usually on to avoid the potential deer and other obstacles. And there it was, just floating, standing there in the high beams, staying the 50 yards in front of me, fleeing into the night as my car continued to travel forward, taunting me. When I returned to my currently owned apartment in my current town about 3 hours ago, my significant other, who has no idea about this, came over to hang out with me. We were laying in bed just watching TV when suddenly, in front of my TV, it defied itself. Now what I consider normal rules of conduct, and appeared directly in front of my television, about 6 feet away from my bed, and just stood there. The face I previously mentioned, visible, emotionless, the eyes staring right into mine. I freaked out and my significant other was thrown off by me, asking why I was acting this way. I couldn't say or do anything. I just stared into what she perceived as the TV screen, but that was actually the face of my hindrance, for what felt like hours, but was just probably a few seconds. Then it lifted a hand, similar in skin tone, but I need to mention was very slender, almost skeletal hand, to its face, and pressed one finger to its mouth, as if to say, shh, then passed into the wall and disappeared. My significant other left about an hour ago, weirded out by my activity, that I just explained as being chilled by the AC. I only have about 7 days living in this town, and I'm wondering if I should contact a medium now, or wait until I move into the new city and see if the activity continues. By the way, I currently live in a small town, and the only medium around works outside of their house, and I'm very skeptical on their credibility. Should I contact her and attempt to solve this before my move, or am I safe in thinking that perhaps a change of scenery and lifestyle can shake this, whatever, away from me? The fact that tonight it made another close encounter with me frightens me to the potential aggressiveness that it can possess, not to mention its persistence.